You ever notice how politics isn't even about running the country anymore? No, that'd be too much work. Running a country means actually solving problems, fixing roads, making sure grandma doesn't have to sell her teeth to afford medicine. That's messy, that's complicated, that's boring. Nobody wants to do boring. What they want is a show, a goddamn performance. The whole thing looks less like government and more like a Broadway production. Except instead of jazz hands, you got handshakes. Instead of tap dancing, you got tap dancing around questions. And instead of real actors, you've got people so bad at lying, they make soap opera stars look like Shakespeare. And you know the worst part? We buy tickets to the circus every couple years. We stand in line, wave little flags, and act like the people on stage actually care about us. It's not government anymore. It's American Idol with uglier contestants. Everyone's auditioning. Vote for me, I've got a nice smile. Vote for me, I care about the children. You ever hear that line? I care about the children. Yeah, which ones? Yours, mine, or just the ones you can use for a photo op while you kiss their sticky little foreheads. Look at the campaign trail. That's not politics. That's a goddamn road show. They travel from town to town, kissing babies, shaking hands, eating corn dogs at state fairs. And everyone claps like seals because a senator put a hot dog in his mouth without choking. This is what passes for leadership. Look, he ate a funnel cake just like us. He understands the common man. Yeah, sure. The guy wears a $3,000 suit and rides in a limo. But because he held a corn dog in one hand and waved with the other, suddenly he's a man of the people. And the debates. Oh, you've seen these things. They call them debates, but they're not debates. They're game shows. 2 hours of people standing behind podiums trying to come up with snappy one-liners while pretending to answer questions. Senator, what's your plan for health care? Well, let me tell you, my opponent here is a dangerous radical. Ding, ding, ding. Round one goes to the guy with the funniest insult. Forget the policies. Forget the details. No one even bothers with details. People don't want details. People want zingers. Politics is just stand-up comedy without the jokes. And sometimes with worse delivery. And then there's the media. Oh boy. They act like referees. But really they're more like hype men. They don't want solutions either, because solutions are boring. No. They want drama. They want fireworks. So they set it up like it's a prize fight. Ladies and gentlemen, in this corner, weighing 220 pounds, the champion of the middle class, the savior of the tax code. And in the other corner, some guy with a spray tan and a toothy grin, ready to pander to whatever group of voters is clapping the loudest. It's not news coverage. It's pro wrestling. The only thing missing is folding chairs and theme music. And the public, oh, don't get me started. The public eats this up. We don't just accept the show. We demand it. If a politician actually came out and said, here are the boring, complicated steps we're going to take to fix this, nobody would listen. People would change the channel. Too dull. But if he comes out with a big smile and says, we're going to fix everything and it won't cost you a dime, suddenly he's a star. It doesn't matter if it's possible. It doesn't matter if it makes sense. As long as it sounds good and makes you feel warm inside, it sells. That's not politics. That's advertising. You know who really loves this theater? The consultants. These guys are the directors of the play. They coach the candidates. Don't wear that tie. It makes you look weak. Smile more, but not too much. People don't trust big teeth. When they ask you about foreign policy, tell a story about your grandpa's farm. When they ask you about health care, talk about apple pie. It's not government, it's marketing. They're not selling solutions, they're selling a brand. Vote for this guy. He's the hope brand. Vote for that one. He's the change brand. Meanwhile, the actual problems still sitting there waiting. And it's not like the politicians don't know it. They know exactly what they're doing. They're actors who forgot their lines but remembered the applause cues. They clap for themselves, the audience claps along, and then they all go backstage to the same parties. And people at home, they actually think they just witnessed a clash of ideas. No. What you saw was two people reading from the same script, written by the same writers, paid for by the same donors. It's like watching a soap opera where the good guy and the bad guy drive home together after filming. The whole machine runs on spectacle. Look at the conventions. You ever seen one of those? Giant balloons, confetti, cheesy theme songs. They're like pep rallies for adults who should know better. We believe in America! Of course you do. You're running for office here, not Belgium. They chant slogans, wear stupid hats, wave signs, and cry when their guy gives a speech that some intern wrote at 3 in the morning. People act like they just saw the second coming of Christ because some guy promised them cheaper gas and a tax break. That's not democracy. It's a concert, except instead of music, you get cliches. And what do we get after the show ends? Nothing changes. Roads are still cracked. Schools are still broke. Jobs still suck. And you're still sitting in traffic wondering if anyone in charge gives a damn. But they don't need to fix anything, because as long as they keep putting on the show, you'll keep watching. It's the same play every 4 years with a rotating cast. Sometimes the costumes are red, sometimes they're blue. But the script never changes. Act 1, promise the moon. Act 2, blame the other guy. Act 3, pretend you did something. Curtain call, balloons drop, applause. Then everybody goes home until the sequel. And isn't that what it feels like now? sequels. Every election is just the same movie with different actors. It's like the Rocky series. How many times are we going to watch the same fight? Except in this version, nobody ever wins. And the audience keeps paying for tickets. The only difference is the catchphrases. One year it's compassion. The next it's freedom. Then it's security. Then change. Same garbage, different packaging. And don't think for a second they don't know it's theater. Why else do they spend so much money on lighting, staging, sound bites? Why else are they obsessed with image consultants? Because they know most people aren't listening. They're watching. They're looking for the suit, the smile, the sound bite that fits on a bumper sticker. Nobody reads the policies. Hell, nobody even reads the ballot half the time. People vote like they pick cereal at the supermarket. I like the colors on this box. You know what I love about politics? The absurdity. The whole goddamn thing is a joke, and the punchline is always on us. And the craziest part, we laugh. Because what else can you do? If you don't laugh at this nonsense, you'll go insane. You'll sit in traffic listening to these people argue on the radio, and by the time you get to work, you'll be ready to choke the copier. That's why we laugh. Laughter is cheaper than therapy and a hell of a lot more fun than banging your head against a wall while you try to understand why people who can't even fix potholes are lecturing you about fixing the economy. Let's start with promises. Oh, the promises. Every election season is like a clearance sale at a furniture store. Everything must go. Half off your taxes, free health care, and a pony for every child. They promise you the world, then deliver you a coupon for 10% off your next disappointment. And people buy it, they nod their heads, clap, and go. Yes! Finally, someone who understands. No, they don't understand. They're not selling solutions. They're selling slogans. And slogans are like fortune cookies. You crack them open, and all you get is a tiny strip of paper that makes you feel good for 10 seconds. Then you're hungry again. And the absurdity doesn't stop with promises. Look at the campaigns. Millions of dollars spent on ads that tell you absolutely nothing. My opponent hates America. He once kicked a puppy. Vote for me. I love puppies. Meanwhile, both of them are at the same fundraiser later that night, shaking hands with the same billionaires. But you're at home, screaming at the TV, convinced one of these clowns is going to save you. They're not saving you. They can't even save their own hairlines. And how about the way they talk? Oh, it's a masterpiece of absurdity. They use words like the American people, as if that's some magical group. The American people want jobs. Really? That's profound. Who the hell doesn't want a job? Nobody's out there saying, you know what I'd like? Crippling debt and a box of ramen noodles for dinner every night. but they keep repeating it because it sounds good. They talk about freedom and security and values, and all these vague words that mean everything and nothing at the same time. It's like they raided a Hallmark card factory and turned it into campaign speeches. The debates, oh my God, you can't watch them without laughing. They stand there waving their hands, dodging questions like they're playing dodgeball in gym class. Senator, how will you address healthcare costs? Well, first of all, let me just say I love this country, and I love the hardworking people in it. That's not an answer. That's filler. That's political bubble wrap. And the crowd claps like he just cured polio. You ever notice the applause breaks? They're like laugh tracks in a bad sitcom. The candidate says something obvious like, we need to work together. And boom, standing ovation. What are they cheering for? Teamwork. You learn that in kindergarten, and the media plays along because absurdity sells. They'll spend hours analyzing whether a candidate's tie was the right color or if he looked presidential. What the hell does presidential even mean? A guy in a suit who lies with confidence. If that's the standard, half the salesmen at used car lots are presidential. They hype up every moment like it's the Super Bowl. Did you see that zinger? Did you hear that comeback? Yeah, I heard it. And it sounded like two middle schoolers arguing over who farted in class. But they replay it, slow it down, and act like it was Shakespeare. And let's not forget the scandals. Oh, the scandals are the best part of the absurdity. Every week, there's some bombshell about a politician caught doing something embarrassing. And people act shocked, as if the guy who's been lying to you for 20 years might also lie about something else. Breaking news, Senator Smith had an affair. Of course he did. These people can't keep promises. Why would they keep vows? The only shocking part is that anyone's still surprised. It's like being shocked that a magician uses tricks. The absurdity also shows up in the way they pretend to relate to regular people. You ever see these photo ops? A millionaire politician putting on a hard hat and pretending to shovel dirt at a construction site. Like that's convincing anybody. See, I'm just like you. No, you're not. You shovel dirt for 5 minutes, then go back to your limo and wash your hands with imported bottled water. Meanwhile, the guy next to you is actually shoveling dirt for a living and wondering if his paycheck will cover rent. But hey, it looked good on TV, so mission accomplished. Then there's the way they argue about money. Billions for this, trillions for that. They throw these numbers around like monopoly money. We're going to cut spending, but also increase funding, and nobody will pay more in taxes. That's not math. That's fantasy. You can't spend more, collect less, and still balance the books. But they act like they've cracked the code. And the public, We just nod along because numbers that big don't even register. You tell someone their rent's going up $50, they panic. You tell them the government's blowing $1 trillion, they shrug because trillion sounds fake. It sounds like a number from a cartoon. And you got to laugh at the way they keep blaming each other. Every problem is always the other guy's fault. The deficit, that was him. The war, that was her. The traffic on your way to work, that's definitely the other party. Nobody takes responsibility. Nobody says, yeah, we screwed up. Imagine if regular people acted like that at work. You're late to the office. Your boss asks why. And you say, well, you see, my coworker failed to adequately address the long-term infrastructure needs of the highway system. Boom, promotion. The absurdity is endless. And that's why humor is the only way to deal with it. You can't take it seriously. Because the moment you do, you realize the whole system is a joke being played on you. So you laugh. You laugh at the promises, the slogans, the debates, the scandals, the sound bites. Because at the end of the day, laughter is the only honest response to a system that's been lying to you for decades and asking you to clap for the privilege. You ever notice how the funniest people in the world are the ones who accidentally tell the truth? They don't even mean to sometimes. They're up there making a joke, and everyone laughs. And then 5 minutes later, you're driving home going, wait a second. That's actually true. That's the trick. Comedy isn't about making things up. Comedy is about pointing at the giant pile of crap in the middle of the room that everyone's pretending not to see and saying, hey, look at this crap, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's why people get so nervous when jokes get too close to reality. Because once you laugh, you've admitted it's real. Politicians hate that. Oh, they hate it when a joke cuts deeper than a speech. A speech can be spun, analyzed, explained away. A joke just sits there, naked, simple, undeniable. You can't debate it. You can't spin it. You can't dress it up. It's too clear. That's why a well-placed laugh scares the hell out of people in charge. They know jokes are sticky. You forget policy papers. You forget 10-point plans. But that one joke about a senator's hair looking like a dead raccoon, that's going to follow him into the grave. And you know what's really funny? When the people in charge try to be funny, they can't. They're not wired for it. They tell jokes the way a robot makes love, awkward, mechanical, and nobody leaves satisfied. They'll stand at a podium and try to crack a line. Haha, I was on a plane last week and the food was bad. That's not comedy, that's small talk. Meanwhile, the truth they're hiding is that the plane you're on is falling out of the sky because nobody fixed the engine. But sure, tell us about the peanuts. Comedy cuts through that nonsense. Comedy doesn't care about approval ratings. Comedy doesn't take polls. Comedy doesn't ask, will this play in Ohio? Comedy just tells the truth and lets the chips fall where they may. That's why people remember the jokes more than the speeches. You don't walk around quoting policy papers. Nobody says, you know what really inspired me? That subcommittee report on agricultural subsidies. No, you remember the line that made you laugh because it exposed the absurdity better than any report ever could. Think about scandals. A scandal breaks, the politician gives a long, serious statement. He's deeply regretful. He's consulting his family. He takes responsibility, but also blames the press. Blah, blah, blah. You sit through 10 minutes of that and remember nothing. Then a comic comes along, makes one joke about how the guy's zipper had more security breaches than the border, and suddenly the whole thing is crystal clear. That's truth telling. You didn't need 5,000 words. You just needed a laugh that nailed it to the wall. You ever notice how kids get away with this too? Kids are natural comedians. They'll blurt out the truth with no filter. You bring your kid to the store, they point at someone and say, that man is fat. Everyone gasps. You want to crawl into the frozen food aisle and die. But the kid isn't wrong. He just told the truth. Adults don't like it because we've learned to bury the truth under layers of politeness and jargon. Comedy digs it back up. Comedy is the kid in the store pointing and saying, look, the emperor's naked. Except with better timing and fewer tantrums. The best part is, people trust a joke more than they trust a press conference. Isn't that nuts? But it makes sense. A politician stands up there, stone-faced, says, we're not raising your taxes. Nobody believes him. A comic gets up and says, they're going to take your money and laugh about it while they do it. And everyone nods and goes, yep, that sounds about right. Because the comic doesn't have skin in the game. The comic doesn't need your vote. He just needs you to laugh. And if you're laughing, you're listening. And if you're listening, you might actually notice how bad you're getting screwed. That's the other thing. Comedy doesn't dress the truth up. It doesn't put it in a shiny box with a bow. Comedy just slaps it on the table. Boom. There it is. Ugly, uncomfortable, undeniable. And somehow, when it's funny, it's easier to swallow. You ever notice that? Somebody tells you straight up, you're broke, the system is rigged, and nobody cares about you. You get depressed, but if somebody says it with a laugh, suddenly it's bearable. It's the same truth, but it's got a little sugar on it. It goes down easier. That's why people crave it. Not just the laugh, but the relief that comes with it. And let's not forget, truth wrapped in comedy spreads faster than any news story. 100 newspapers can print an article about corruption, and half the country won't even skim it. One good joke about the same corruption, and everybody's repeating it at work the next day. Comedy is contagious. It's viral before viral was even a word people used. It's the original word of mouth weapon. You don't just laugh at a good line, you pass it on. Hey, did you hear the one about the governor? And before you know it, the joke has done more damage than a dozen investigations. Because once people are laughing at you, you're finished. You can survive criticism, you can survive outrage, but you can't survive ridicule. That's why comedy is dangerous to the powerful. Not because it's mean, not because it's crude, because it's true. It strips away the armor. You can't hide behind flags and slogans when people are laughing at you. You can't hide behind statistics when the punchline lands. That's when the mask slips. And for one brief moment, everyone sees what's really there. And once you've seen it, you can't go back to pretending.